The office building was quiet that Saturday morning, the kind of quiet that feels almost sacred. Sunlight slipped through tall glass windows and rested gently on polished floors. The world outside was busy, but up on the 23rd floor, everything moved slowly, almost thoughtfully. Thomas Reed adjusted his blue maintenance uniform and rolled his cleaning cart into the executive conference room. He had worked in that building for 12 years, long enough to know which lights flickered, which doors stuck in winter, and which executives preferred their coffee strong and black. Thomas was a careful man, early 40s, broad shoulders from years of steady work. His dark hair was beginning to gray at the temples, though he never mentioned it. That morning, bright yellow rubber gloves covered his hands. They were a little too big, but they kept his skin from cracking in the cold months. Beside him stood his daughter. Her name was Lily Reed. Lily was 10 years old, slim, with long light brown hair that fell neatly over her shoulders. She wore jeans, a soft gray t-shirt with a bright yellow cartoon character on the front, and a small navy backpack slung over one shoulder. Her eyes were curious, the kind that noticed things adults often overlooked. It was bring your child to work weekend. Most of the executives had brought their teenagers on Friday, but Thomas had been assigned Saturday maintenance. He didn't want to disappoint Lily, so here she was. She stood quietly while her father wiped the long white table. Across the room, a group of sharply dressed executives had gathered around a large workstation. Dark suits, crisp ties, polished shoes. Their arms were crossed, their faces serious. At the center stood Victoria Langford. Victoria was in her mid-40s. Blonde hair styled perfectly, a deep red tailored suit that fit like confidence itself. She had built a tech company from a small startup into a global name. People described her as brilliant and intimidating. That morning, she did not look pleased. On the large monitor behind her flashed a red warning box. System failure, production halt, estimated loss, $200 million. The engineers had been there since dawn. They had tried everything, rebooted, reconfigured, rerouted. Nothing worked. Victoria tapped the screen with a pen. "Fix this," she said sharply, her voice echoing in the high ceiling room, "and I'll personally sign a $200 million contract extension." There was a small, nervous laugh from someone in the back. It was the kind of laugh people make when they don't know what else to do. Thomas lowered his eyes. He guided Lily gently toward the far corner so they wouldn't be in the way. But Lily wasn't looking at the executives. She was looking at the screen. The red box pulsed again. Warning, authorization loop error. Lily tilted her head. Her father had taught her how to fix old radios at home, not because they needed radios, but because Thomas believed children should know how things work. They spent evenings at the kitchen table with wires and tiny screwdrivers. The smell of solder and tomato soup filled their small apartment. Lily took a small step forward. Victoria noticed. "And who is this?" she asked, her tone edged with impatience. Thomas stiffened. "Ma'am, this is my daughter, Lily. She's just visiting. We'll stay out of the way." Victoria glanced down at the girl, then back at the screen. "Well," she said with a tight smile, "unless she can fix it instantly, we have real work to do." A few executives chuckled under their breath. Lily felt her cheeks warm, but she didn't step back. Instead, she walked closer to the workstation. "May I?" she asked softly. The room went still. Thomas opened his mouth to apologize, but something in Lily's steady voice made Victoria pause. Victoria gestured with her pen. "Go ahead," she said lightly, almost amused. Lily leaned toward the keyboard. She didn't rush. She read the error message carefully. Then she noticed something small. In the lower corner of the system dashboard, a secondary authorization program was running twice, both trying to validate the same command. She had seen something like that before, when two radios tried to broadcast on the same frequency. They cancel each other out. Lily pointed. "You have two approvals fighting each other," she said quietly. "If you turn one off, the other can work." One of the engineers frowned. "That's impossible. Victoria raised her hand. "Show me," she said. Lily carefully clicked through the system window. Her fingers were steady. She disabled the duplicate authorization protocol for a moment. Nothing happened. Then the red box flickered and disappeared. The monitor refreshed, system restored, green across the board. The room was silent. No one moved. It was the kind of silence that feels like standing in church when something unexpected but beautiful has just happened. Victoria stared at the screen, then at Lily, then at Thomas. "Well," she said slowly, "I suppose I owe someone $200 million. A nervous laugh filled the room again, but this time it sounded different. Warmer. Thomas blinked rapidly. She likes puzzles," he said humbly. Victoria stepped closer to Lily. "How did you know?" she asked, her voice no longer sharp. Lily shrugged. "When my dad fixes radios, he says if two voices talk at once, you don't hear either one." Victoria looked at Thomas. He shifted uncomfortably. "We tinker at home sometimes," he said. "It keeps her curious." One of the senior engineers cleared his throat. We missed that duplication." Victoria nodded slowly. She turned back to Lily. "You didn't just fix a system," she said gently. "You reminded us to look at problems simply." She knelt slightly so she was eye level with the girl. "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Lily hesitated, then smiled. "An inventor. Or maybe a teacher." Victoria's eyes softened. When she stood again, something had changed in her posture. The sharp edges had eased. "Thomas," she said, "how would you feel about enrolling Lily in our summer innovation program? Full scholarship." Thomas stared as if he hadn't heard correctly. "Ma'am, that program costs more than I make in a year." Victoria nodded. Not for her. The executives shifted. Some looked embarrassed, others thoughtful. Victoria addressed the room. "We almost lost $200 million because we were too busy proving how smart we were. A 10-year-old fixed it by listening." Her voice gentled. "There's a lesson there." Thomas felt a lump in his throat. He squeezed Lily's shoulder, the yellow glove still bright against her backpack strap. Later, as they rode the elevator down, Lily leaned against her father. "Dad," she said. "Yes, sweetheart." "Why were they laughing at first?" Thomas considered carefully. "Sometimes," he said slowly, "people forget that wisdom doesn't always wear a suit." Lily nodded thoughtfully. Outside, the afternoon sun had warmed the city sidewalks. Cars moved in steady lines. Life continued as it always does, but something small had shifted. Victoria stood alone in the conference room for a long while after everyone left. She looked at the green system dashboard, then at the empty doorway where Thomas and Lily had stood. She thought about her own father. He had been a mechanic, hands always stained with grease. He used to tell her, "Victoria, if a machine stops working, don't yell at it, listen to it." Somewhere along the way, she had forgotten that. That evening, she called Thomas personally. "I meant what I said," she told him. "Lily belongs in rooms like ours, and so do you." Over the next months, Lily attended workshops filled with robots and circuits and mentors who spoke to her with respect. She asked questions others were afraid to ask. She reminded grown adults that curiosity is not childish. It is powerful. Thomas still cleaned the offices, but people greeted him differently now. They asked about Lily. They listened when he spoke. And Victoria, she changed too. She began inviting junior staff to share ideas without fear. She removed the long table that separated leadership from engineers. She remembered that companies are built by hands of all kinds. Years later, when Lily stood on a stage to present her first patented invention, she looked out into the audience. Her father sat in the third row wearing his one good suit. Victoria sat beside him. Lily smiled, not because she had once fixed a system worth $200 million, but because she had learned something more valuable. Kindness opens doors that talent alone cannot, and sometimes the quiet voice in the room is the one we most need to hear. If you listen carefully in life, you'll notice it. It may come from a child, or a janitor, or someone you almost overlooked. And if you're wise enough to pause and let that voice speak, you may find that what truly needs fixing is not the machine, but the way we see one another. And that is worth far more than any contract money can buy.